Chapter 6. Undocumented. New Toronto Upper City Streets, October 31st, 2263. 0540 hours. Jason stared at his hands as he climbed a grimy ladder up a deep maintenance chute, leading to the arcology's city surface level. He could still picture the ugly purple nanophage fluid splattered all over his skin. And those shadows. Jason blinked his thoughts away and shook his head vigorously as he felt drugs flood his system. Sam's newly rebuilt neural inhibitor could now automatically dispense osmium based on Jason's mental state, without the need for manual release, though that was still possible. It didn't help with his ongoing exhaustion, though. His dreams over the last few weeks had become worse and worse, so bad that David had requisitioned additional sedatives and more osmium from the village's doctor to allow Jason to get a few hours of actual precious rest each night. They'd been risking a lot of unauthorized surface trips lately, and this one was their boldest yet. So far, Jason, David, and Sam had not found a way into the Science Institute to locate the ABADDON beacon and stop it from trying to possess him again. Nor had they found a way for him to properly control his abhamic powers. With little traction so far over the last 3 weeks, the clock was ticking. Jason had no idea what they'd do when they actually found the obelisk, but it was best to take these things one step at a time. He had managed to steer clear of anything infected with the phage so far since the incident, minimizing the chances of Abaddon being able to reach him. Jason couldn't allow himself to have another psychic detonation, and especially not in the village, surrounded by so many innocent people. "Almost there," Sam called from below. Faint sunlight filtered down through the grate high above them. Great," David huffed, dripping sweat onto his companions. "At least this covers my cardio for today." The shaft was claustrophobic, moist, and crawling with insect life. Jason's scalp itched. There hadn't even been time for micro-showers before they'd left the village, sneaking out before the first work shift to avoid being spotted. "Remind me, who are we going to see again?" Jason asked. Sam let out an exasperated sigh. "Don't worry about the who. If my contact's information is good, it'll take us right to Abaddon. Maybe today." "I'll believe that when the sun explodes," David grumbled. His red hair was coiffed into its usual peak, giving Budgie something to pick at. Jason looked down at Sam as he climbed. "This is an awful risk we're taking." "I think what you meant to say is, wow, thank you so much for finding this lead for me, Sam," she corrected. "Right, thanks," Jason replied, without enthusiasm. He looked below into the blackness, but nothing was following them. No creeping dread, no crawling darkness, no Abaddon. At the end of the long climb, David shifted his bag aside and plugged his hacking laptop into the grated hatch above. The hatch opened almost right away, letting a cascade of dirty rainwater down into the shaft. David jerked sideways out of its path. "Whoa, good morning." Budgie spouted some newly acquired swear words he'd learned as he flapped out of the downpour. The water caught Jason full in the face, and he barked out a cough, spluttering. Sam's giggling caught Jason's attention as he wiped himself off. He looked down and saw her eyes flashing from amber to pink. Most of the moisture leached out of his hair and clothing. "That's one way to get a wake-up call," she said, letting the dirty water fall away down the shaft. With extra practice over the last couple weeks, though Jason had no idea where Sam had found the time, her control of her abhamic powers had improved greatly, even extending to the manipulation of liquids now. Sam required less osmium to recover, but Jason still couldn't go off his constant osmium drip without risking the Abaddon beacon locating and attacking him again. "At least that's my morning shower covered," Jason said through gritted teeth. Sam smiled. "There's that positive spirit. Let it out a little more often." Hey, I told you guys what the habitat's weather systems were doing before we left, David pointed out. A full downpour to clear pollution, at the same time every month. The city's central processing facility didn't hack itself, you know. Yes, we remember, Sam muttered, as David disappeared up into the brisk early morning wind. Their cockatoo hopped onto the pavement after him, ruffling his feathers and chirping at the new sights. Jason followed David up the final rungs of the ladder. The artificial breeze caught his hair as he emerged, and he breathed it in. The city's surface level had much cleaner air than the stagnant bowels of the new Toronto-arcology. David sealed the grate behind them, while Jason helped Sam up before scanning the alleyway for any witnesses of their arrival. The narrow crevice between structures was choked with debris, signage, several rusting automaton hulks, and rusting fire escapes. Budgie took flight and flapped above the dripping rooftops. "You be careful up there, Featherhead," David called, pulling out a scanner and heading down one end of the alley to scout around. They had emerged in the city's eastern quadrant, near where the village was located far below them. The eastern quadrant was made up of run-down residential districts, separated by street-wide ID scanners and phage detection stations. Notably for Jason and his companions, the UEF Capital Science Institute was also fairly close by. The ABADDON Beacon was supposedly still in there, though the only way to know for sure was to break in and find it. The surface level of the cake-shaped city megastructure was split into 5 zones. The extravagant downtown of the financial district starkly contrasted against the 4 poorer sectors surrounding it, ringed with industrial flatlands, landing fields, and gigantic manufactories around the periphery. Jason spotted the space elevator complex rising from the core, where the arcology's construction over the original city far below them had begun over a century ago. The exospheric stalk pointed through the skydome toward Colossus Station, barely visible many thousands of kilometers away through a break in the toxic clouds, which boiled and flashed in great lightning storms, a constant reminder of the Great War that had originally messed up their planet. Sam examined a pair of small metal generators connected by loose cabling around her neck, padded for comfort, and checked Jason's too. "Let's make sure that shadow didn't short these static plates out. It'd be a shame if someone catches you on camera, pretty boy." Jason went red, but something else drew his attention to the sky. He squinted, trying to see through the shimmering containment dome. "There's a lot of ships up there." David trudged back into view, returning from scouting the area around them. "We'd need Talos to do a long-range scan to see what's going on in orbit, but we don't have Talos right now." David probably hadn't meant any harm by saying this, but his mentioning of their beloved robot triggered Jason's guilt. It had taken the better part of a week of rushed excursions to collect enough of his scattered components for Sam to rebuild their long-time automaton guardian, which was finally nearing completion. That didn't help Jason feel much better about it, though. Sam checked David's static plates. "We should be able to stay anonymous on cameras, as long as we don't pass through any ID scanners." "Yeah, but we still shouldn't take any unnecessary risks, even to find Abaddon," said David, checking Jason's osmium inhibitor for the 5th time that morning out of pure habit. Budgie gnawed on his ear. "That's a given," Sam replied. David's lip curled. "But here we are again, on the surface, without Governor Yamamoto's permission, on one of your wild goose chases, again." Sam glared back. "This is the best lead into the Federation labs that we've gotten so far. My contact's information is good. We'll be in and out of there before you can complain that your whittle feet hurt. Come on." "We've been coming up to the surface without permission way too much lately," David said. "Yamamoto is going to come down on us hard if he catches us. And eventually, he will catch us." Sam shook her head. "I cleared our work schedule for the morning, so no one's going to come knocking at the chop shop. If we're fast, it'll be like we never left. Hopefully. Sam started down the alleyway, following a map on her comm device's dim screen. We should at least check it out, David, Jason said, starting after her. Sam hasn't led us wrong before. Yeah, muttered David. Budgie repeated the phrase in a high-pitched squawk, prompting David to clamp his beak shut. Sounds like you need a morning coffee, brother, Jason muttered. He noticed a homeless man slumped between piles of trash, and they locked eyes. Jason slowly raised a finger to his lips. Despite his drug-induced stupor, the man repeated his gesture and winked. Jason tossed him a ration bar. Having lived on these same unforgiving streets himself as a child, Jason knew how the guy felt. Sam stopped behind a rain-drenched dumpster, peering ahead. The boulevard was bustling with upper city folks, who hurried around in tense groups through steam columns, wafting up through the sewer grates. The power appeared to be out in this sector. The traffic beacons were dead, and there were no lights visible inside nearby buildings. To the left, an identity scanner array stretched across the entire street, guarded by several armed automatons. Though the street scanner was dead, the skeletal, plasteel-plated robots were still checking everyone for infections and verifying identities to ensure that no citizens strayed out of their designated zone without authorization. David checked the sparking junction box beside the dumpster. Eastern Quadrant is having a brownout, he noted. Might be our lucky day. Sam spotted a surveillance drone hovering 10 meters above the street, patrolling. She held up a hand to halt Jason. Their automated minions still have power. Watch out. The compliance drone swept the avenue with scanner rays, verifying identities and checking for infections. David watched the drone, tugging at the device around his neck. You're sure these static plates will work if we're spotted? Sam nodded. I've tested them with every piece of camera equipment we have in the village. The interference fields will work, I promise. Unless those drones have a piece of scanning tech that I don't know about. This is why I'm already getting gray hairs, said David. Jason poked the side of David's head. You don't have any gray hairs yet, brother. Shut it, numbskull. As the drone passed around the block, Sam jerked her thumb at a diner across the road, squeezed in between a laundromat and a bio-sealed apartment building. The dead neon sign read, Franz, in cursive writing, styled like a 1950s eatery, beside a 24-hour service notice. You picked a rather scuzzy meeting spot, said David, squinting at it. A lone cyborg bouncer waited under a wet awning, looking bored. Drifters and addicts stumbled around on the sidewalk, several per block. The upper city was a horrible place for anyone without financial connections, eligibility for the UEF's dwindling social programs, or a well-run off-grid safe zone like the village. Sam shook her head. I didn't pick it, my contact did. We meet here instead of sending open transmissions, because I do care about security, David. David grumbled. I like it. It's got character, Jason said. It doesn't draw attention. Best case scenario for keeping off the UEF's radar, Sam said. Come on. She led them across the street, backpack swaying as she avoided steaming puddles. With his ever-present scowl, David stuck his hands inside his leather jacket, never far from the over-engineered pistol strapped to his leg. Without warning, a short rumble shook the earth. Everyone froze until it passed, including the twitching addicts hanging out on the street corner. What was that? Sam said, looking down at the ground. David shrugged. They might be doing repair work on the city's foundations, though I doubt it. Until this war ends, this place will never get the overhaul it needs. Maybe, Jason said, biting his lower lip. Underground tremors in an artificial environment like their city-arcology were never a good sign. Sam continued toward the bouncer, who leaned against the wall of the restaurant and regarded Sam with his bionic eye first, before then eyeing Jason, David, and their bird, who shrieked at him. "This is the earliest in the day I've seen you arrive, Sam. And you're bringing friends this time," the bouncer said in a thick accent. Jason guessed that he was from the European Protectorate Arcology from the way he spoke. Sam flashed a dazzling, straight-toothed smile at the Slavic man, slipping a pair of credit chips into his pocket. "You were going to meet them eventually, Richard." The bouncer accepted her payment, eyeing the sword grip sticking out of her bag top. "Don't cause a fuss, and that thing better stay put, little girl." "It will. Quiet morning?" Sam asked. "So far. We usually only get workers from the midnight shifts coming in this early. And be careful who sees those static plates around your necks. Dead giveaway that you're looking to avoid scanners and cameras, Undoc." "Fair enough," said Sam. The restaurant's interior was warmer than the chilly October morning. Jason rubbed his hands, blowing on them. The wood-walled, heavily decorated diner smelled strange but not unpleasant, like old food. It was nearly deserted. 2 serving automatons assisted a large, homely woman with graying hair and a stained apron at the counter, wiping things down for the day's service. The lights and ceiling fans were dead. A few scattered citizens occupied tables near the frosted front windows, drinking coffee, but they ignored the newcomers. The gray-haired barkeeper looked up at Sam, sounding exhausted. "Sam, I rarely see you here this early." "Hey, Fran. Is she here?" Sam asked. The woman's focus shifted to a gloomy booth nearby, pointing it out. "Yep, she's here." A loud pop came from the wall-mounted fuse box. Lights flickered on, and the jukebox resumed a quiet tune, playing an old rock song from pre-Federation days. Fran sighed. Finally. David leaned in. "Does this happen often?" "At least once a day now," the bartender replied, surprised at his interest. "Neighborhood rumor is that it's because we're located near the Science Institute. People think they're doing weird things in there, energy-intensive, hard on the grid. But the more likely explanation is the financial corruption with the energy companies, load shedding, etc., etc. But mentioning that out loud would be a social compliance violation." Jason suppressed a grimace. Fran was closer to the truth than she realized with her science facility theory. Sam put a couple of Federation credit bills down on the bar and winked at her. "You didn't see us, as always," Sam said. "Thanks, Fran." "Sure. Whatever," Fran said. "Don't take too long back there, please. We've been having more enforcer visits than usual." David audibly growled. Jason exclaimed, "Enforcer visits?" "We'll be fine, Jason," Sam said. "We'll leave if we see anyone more important than a traffic cop." Not reassured in the slightest, Jason followed Sam toward the booth, hoping that this trip wasn't all for nothing, like so many others had been. A girl leaned into the dim light above the booth as they approached. "Sam?" "Hey, Lucia," Sam replied with warmth. Lucia stared wide-eyed at Jason and David. "You didn't tell me you'd be bringing company, Sam," Lucia said. Jason noted her naturally tanned features and her age. Sam's choice of someone similar to them made sense, as younger people in the upper city were usually less likely to be taken in by the social compliance church's propaganda. "Sorry," Sam said, smiling awkwardly at Lucia, who kept her eyes locked on Jason and David. Budgie landed on the girl's shoulder, staring into her brown eyes before nuzzling Lucia's long, dark hair. The Latina girl looked surprised, but she let Budgie do his thing and relaxed a bit. "Ha! He likes you," David commented, raising an eyebrow. Sam pulled out a chair and put down her bag. Lucia, I brought my friends today because this concerns them as well. Besides, they should meet the source of our best salvage leads for the past little while. Jason dropped into the seat beside Sam. So, you had her feeding you coordinates? No wonder our hauls have been so good lately. Lucia gave Jason a wary look, but nodded. Sam contacted me a while ago, offering a cash reward for locations of valuable items headed to the recyc yards, specifically intact nanite tech. Production from the nanotech gigaforges has never been higher, even with all the economic problems. So there's a lot of stuff being thrown away, and malfunctioning at a faster rate than ever too, which of course spreads the phage faster than ever. David leaned against the curved booth so he could also monitor the front and back doors. And when were you gonna tell us that some random upworlder knew our itinerary for the past few months, Sam? He asked. Sam looked up, fixing David with a hard stare. This is me telling you now. And Lucia's not a random. You should be glad that I've developed this relationship with her, because she may have found us a way into the science facility. Right? Lucia looked up from typing on her datapad, pulling out a locator beacon loaded with a crystal chip. It's here. The device projected an image of a damaged guard robot, along with its coordinates to a location somewhere under the city. I found this after Sam followed up a couple weeks ago and asked me to look into waste coming specifically from the UEF Capital Science Institute, Lucia said, by way of explanation for Jason and David. It's the same model as the robots we've spotted outside that place during our remote stakeouts, Jason replied, peering at it. Could this robot have the right codes to get them inside that building? Did he even dare hope? How do you know all this? Asked David, trying his best to look unimpressed. I work for the Recyc Authority, explained Lucia. Budgie bobbed his head around, mimicking certain words. No one else interrupted, so Lucia continued. I'm not going to rat you out to the church, if that's what you're worried about, David. The recyc yards are mostly automated, with pretty limited camera coverage. As a result, we don't have any way of knowing who might or might not be stealing certain things before they're recycled. David allowed a threatening edge into his tone. But now you know who we are. If you wanted to push our info to the social compliance goons, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. They could be on their way here right now. Lucia gave Sam an expectant look. Sam raised an eyebrow, then said, Oh, right. Sam pushed a handful of credit bills across to Lucia, glaring at David. I've paid Lucia for every lead she's given us, and it's far better money than the church's snitch line would give her for 3 undocumented undercity rats. They've got bigger fish to fry than us. Lucia nodded, holding up her communicator. You're right, David. I could call in a report about 3 undocs prowling around this district anytime I want. They make it very easy for people to do so. But I've got no love for the church or their bullshit. Their high bishop is a blight on the civilized world. David grunted in approval. I see. Sam studied the hologram of the robot. So, this is our guy, huh? Looks familiar enough. Yep, said Lucia. The science facility usually discharges their recyclables using private disposal services, mostly off-world. But sometimes they ship out non-essential waste to our cheaper public yards down here in the city. You've got the usual amount of time to grab that robot, which means getting underground and finding Recyc Yard 78-10D as soon as possible. David squinted at Lucia. Does this robot still have the entry codes for the science facility? Wouldn't they wipe its CPU before discarding it? Lucia shrugged. I set up a quick screening parameter at all our collection depots to detect units whose processors and memories were intact. They are in this one. Someone at the Science Institute must have been sloppy. Whatever security codes that robot carried are still readable, at least until the science facility changes them on their end. Sam glanced at Jason. This is worth checking out. The science facility only has a few entrances, and they're all above ground. With good disguises and maybe some forged IDs, those codes should get us inside. Yeah, Jason nodded, but he felt a stab of dread at the thought. Recyc yards were dangerous at the best of times, and Jason hated the idea of searching one for something as nondescript as a single robot CPU core. Jason's neural inhibitor detected the change in his mental state and gave him a small osmium dose, which dulled the negative feeling right away. What if this guard bot's access codes only get us through the outer doors? David pondered. We need to access the deeper labs to find the... He realized what he was about to reveal, correcting himself. You know what? Forget about the reason. This bot may have just been a glorified sentry. But you'd be able to find out, yeah? Sam asked. Right, hacker man? Simple job? David rolled his eyes at the nickname, but nodded. Yeah, simple job. Let's go find us a robot then, Sam said. This is no different from any other salvage run. We could also pick up a new battery to support Talos's reboot later today while we're down there. Jason felt another twinge of guilt, and the inhibitor let out a low hum, dosing him again. His eyes slid out of focus as the drug stupor set in. Lucia gave him an odd look, but Sam covered for Jason by saying, We'll need the schedule for the Recyc Yard's worker bot rotations and any other pertinent details. I already have it all worked out for you, don't worry, Lucia said, reaching into her bag for another device. And I'm sorry, but I've been out longer than I should have. I gotta get going after this. That's okay, Lucia. You've already made our lives way easier by finding this lead for us, said Sam, reaching out a hand to receive whatever Lucia was searching for. Budgie hopped off Lucia's shoulder and up onto the booth's top surface, staring outside. Despite his osmium brain fog, Jason looked up at Budgie and then at what the bird had seen. David spotted it a split second later. Oh, shit. Several bulky figures hustled past the front windows. Sam's head snapped up, tracking them too. Jason swept Budgie off the booth, hissing, Guys, it's the cops! Richard came crashing through the door, landing on his back. Sizzling arcs of electricity crackled across the bouncer's torso, shorting out his techno eye. He was only equipped for throwing out rowdy hooligans on busy nights, not armored cops with 5,000-volt stun batons. 2 UEF church enforcers stormed inside, clad in blue-gray plating with mirrored visors. Richard struggled to rise, but they hit him again with their sparking weapons. A UEF surveillance drone floated after them through the door, carried on humming anti-gravity generators. Hey, what's going on? Fran called, hurrying to confront the newcomers as the drone flashed a scanning beam over the front tables. The other patrons stopped eating breakfast to stare up at it. Attention, valued Federation citizens, the floating automaton blared in a sonorous mechanical voice. We have been informed that a social compliance violator is inside this establishment. Allow yourselves to be scanned for the record. You have nothing to fear if you have nothing to hide. The scanning beams passed over each citizen without incident, though each of them flinched. David leered at Lucia, eyes flaring. You did rat us out, you traitor! Lucia panicked, snatching the locator beacon and Sam's credit bills off the table, sliding past Jason to leave. No, I'm sorry, I didn't, but I have to go. Wait, stay out of sight, you lunatic! David lunged to force Lucia down, but she was much too fast for him, snaking through his arms and hurrying for the back of the bar. Another drone floated into view from the direction of the restaurant's rear door, followed by 2 more jet black, armored compliance officers. Lucia skidded to a halt as she saw them coming. Oh, shit! Your girl is wanted by the cops? Hissed David, watching from a crack between the booths. How the hell was I supposed to know? Sam demanded, drawing her blade, but David caught her wrist before she could light the deadly phase field. Don't even think about it, he whispered. Lucia screwed herself. We can still walk away from this while they take her in. Let it go. Jason looked from Sam to David, praying that they wouldn't start arguing louder. As Lucia tried to scramble away, the drone swept a scanning beam down her slender form. Its central camera eye flashed red. Social deviant identified. Logged as citizen 056781-A2. You will accompany these compliance officers under the Social Compliance Act of 2241. Your individual rights are waived. Lucia almost ducked past the enforcers, but she crumpled as one of the officers crushed her trapezius muscle with his iron grip. The enforcer's gear made it impossible to see any sign of humanity as he forced her to her knees. Lucia shot Sam with a desperate look, mouthing, "Please, don't let them take me!" Sam lunged towards Lucia again, but David's hand snapped out, yanking her back inside the booth. "Stop it, Sam! If they catch us, if they catch Jason—" But Sam's hand clamped over David's mouth, pressing him back into the seat. Shh. The drone at the front of the bar revolved to focus on their booth, flicking its scanning beams around. Jason's stomach dropped through the floor. Budgie was flapping and shrieking, but Jason gently secured his fingers over the bird's beak and wings. "Oh, God," he hissed through clenched teeth as the drone approached on its jets of anti-gravity, ignoring Fran, who was frantically checking Richard for injuries. The drone repeated its earlier message. "Remain calm, citizens. Allow yourselves to be scanned for the record. You have nothing to fear if you have nothing to hide." "We've got plenty of both," murmured David, unbuckling his holster. The two UEF enforcers followed, batons held at the ready. Jason prayed that his mental stability would remain in check as his inhibitor gave him yet another dose, a dangerous amount of osmium in such a short amount of time. An abhamic explosion in here would flatten this building, possibly the whole block. But Jason hadn't heard the ABADDON beacon's call. Not yet, anyway. He whirled around, checking behind them. "We could run for it. The back door is—" Sam shook her head. "No. We can't let these guys call for backup. David, no shooting. Too loud. Hit them non-lethally. We need them intact so Fran isn't blamed for murdering church officers. If our static plates hold up, they won't get our faces on their helmet cams. Then we find Lucia and get the hell back underground." "Lucia's on her own. She screwed us badly enough as it is," hissed David. He stepped into view with his hands raised so the drone could scan him. "Subject's face is undetectable, presumed undocumented," the drone said. "All undocs must be apprehended for failure to—" David lunged out of Sam's way as she stepped past him and sent her phase blade lashing out on its cable, cracking it upward in mid-flight with her abhamic powers, cleaving the drone in two. Its anti-grav systems died, crushing the wooden floorboards under its two smoking halves. The short sword scorched the ceiling as it sailed right back into Sam's hand. "Hey!" shouted one of the enforcers. They rushed forward, but David clambered onto the booth to their left. The closest one to him yelled, "Stay back!" David growled, "Not a chance." He jumped with his arms wide, slamming into the armored church goon like a wrestler. She screamed, flailing her electrified baton. David grabbed the officer's wrist to keep her from electrocuting him, crashing down through the tables and stools to the ground in a noisy clatter. Budgie, who was combative even by the standards of a feisty cockatoo, swooped in and pecked at the officer's mirrored faceplate. Sam spun forward, looping her blade's cable around her waist like a ship slingshotting around a celestial mass. It sliced through tables, chairs, booths, everything. The flaming energy field flickered off at her command, and the unpowered flat side of the blade collided with the man's helmet, shattering his visor. Sam leaped at him, tackling the much heavier man with a pulse of her psychic power. Her sword's hilt pummeled the man's cranium as they slid to a halt. "Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep," she said. With every blow, her eyes glowed hotter with pink fire. David snaked under his adversary and managed to get a chokehold on her. The enforcer's unarmored neck section crumpled under his biceps, and he coiled his legs around hers to prevent needless thrashing. 10 seconds later, both officers were unconscious, but still alive. Jason hadn't even had time to light his stun rod, rooted to the spot. He glanced at the back doors swinging shut on their saloon hinges, but the enforcers who'd taken Lucia had not returned to investigate. Sam stood, letting out a breath and brushing raven hair out of her face, her eyes cooling back to their usual amber color. She wiped away a line of blood trickling from her nose and grasped her forehead. "You need osmium?" Jason asked. Sam held up a finger, but shook her head. "I'm good. What about you? Any voices?" "I think I'm covered," Jason said, giving her a thumbs up, eyes fluttering as the inhibitor implant hissed. Budgie landed on his shoulder, nuzzling him. Sam smiled back, a little sadly. "That's good, Jason." David pushed the officer's dead weight off his chest. Could have gone worse, I guess." "What the hell have you three done?" Franz shrieked at them from the bar, while Richard groaned on the floor. Sam and David froze. Jason's gut sank again. The serving automatons behind the counter looked confused, the situation far beyond their programming. The other patrons had already fled through the front door. Sam's cheeks flared bright red. "I'm sorry, Fran. I didn't know Lucia had a record. What can we do to help?" "You can get out of here right now. You've got 30 seconds before I report this to the church, so we don't get dragged off too," Fran barked as she helped Richard up. His mechno eye flashed erratically from the shock he'd received. Smoke wisped from the man's thinning hair. "I'm sorry. Please, we can," Sam said. "Now it's 20 seconds. Stay any longer, and I'll give them your descriptions too. Last warning, undocs," Fran said, dumping Richard into a seat. One of the serving bots handed the bouncer a beer, which he dropped with shaking hands. Sam couldn't find any other words. "Shit," David said, taking in the mess they'd made. "This is exactly what we needed to avoid." "I'm sorry, Fran. I'm sorry." Sam slapped every credit bill she had down on the counter, and the 3 embarrassed undocs fled the bar. After checking for Lucia or her captors, they spilled out into the rear alleyway through the back door, which was cluttered with crates from a government ration delivery. Jason spotted several sets of wet boot prints leading away. He heard screaming and looked up, catching the enforcers dragging Lucia around a corner at the end of the alley. Their drone followed behind. "Come on, let's get after him," said Sam, bulldozing her way after them. But David caught her arm. She glared back at him, but David was already arguing. "Seriously, Sam? We can skedaddle back downstairs scot-free right now, but you still want to tempt fate? We cannot screw around with the church. If they figure out that 3 undocs are running around the city, they'll have a whole army on us like moths on a lamp in no time. We're risking the whole village for this gal of yours now. It's not worth it. Not even to find Abaddon." "Listen, all I want to do is figure out where they're taking her," Sam snapped. "Lucia still has the location data for that guard bot on her. We need that, David, for your brother." "I get that," David said. "But helping Lucia is going too far. We cannot get involved with the city authorities, Sam. The second we show up in any other databases, Avery Oakfield will be on us like a leech." Sam's face went red. "I don't know how long we have left to figure this out. Abaddon could hit Jason again tomorrow, today, who knows? We have to do this." Guys, I think we can follow them from a safe distance," interrupted Jason. He was holding Budgie, pointing out a small band around the bird's feathery neck. The cockatoo thrust his head back and forth, happy to be the center of attention. "This thing he wears has a camera on it, right?" Jason asked. Sam checked the lens mounted on the band, nodding. "Yeah, I use this monitor to check Budgie's heart murmur, but true, it's got a camera function that still works, pipes to my comm unit. Helps to track him down if he flies off somewhere." "Okay, follow him," Jason said to the bird, raising his arm. Budgie seemed to understand, screeched an affirmative, and took off, heading in the direction the officers had taken Lucia. If we get the chance to grab Lucia and that data, we take it. If not, at least we tried. It's low risk. Sort of, Jason added. Sam looked ready to kiss him, whereas David balled a fist and sighed. "It's your choice, Jason. We're here because of you. If you want to do this crazy shit, fine. I still vote no. We can find another way into the Federation labs." Sam bit her lip, watching her wrist communicator as Budgie got a good camera angle on the enforcers and Lucia from above. "It's a good thing this isn't a democracy. What's the verdict, Jason?" Jason was silent for a few seconds, contemplating further. "As long as we stay out of more trouble and away from any big concentrations of the phage, fine, let's do it. But I'm still not thrilled about running around on the surface." "I know this is crazy, but we can't give up this lead to find Abaddon," Sam said. "Plus, we all owe Lucia for helping us zero in on good salvage over the last while. The whole village does." "That is true," Jason said. David glared at them both for a moment, but finally, he gave a grudging nod. I suppose." Sam looked at Jason's inhibitor. "Are you still good for osmium? I put a few concentrated doses in your bag before we left, and I've got some too. Doc Janice says we're running low on overall medical supplies, but we've probably got another couple days' worth." "Yeah, I've got plenty, and that's yet another problem I don't want to think about," Jason said, feeling the comforting shape of the inhibitor on his neck. He'd made it through the entire situation in the bar without the beacon managing to break into his mind. But Sam was right. They were running out of time to find Abaddon. Resigned, David tugged his collar up and adjusted his bag straps. "Oh, I know I'm going to regret this, but fine. Let's see if we can find this girl of yours, and then we'll go after that robot. The sooner we find that blasted obelisk and fix you, the better."